sponsored by the Degama Group.
Welcome to Rumbo Minero. My name is Jorge León Benavides, and together with Cesar Campos, we will develop the following program. Cesar, how are you?
What a pleasure, Jorge.
So, we will have Cesar, Victor Gobitz, the ex-president, as everyone knows, of the National Society of Mining, Oil and Energy. And we are going to talk about topics, copper potential, illegal gold in the hands of the state, everything that is being discussed, copper. Shall we discuss a few things with Victor Gobitz?
In the context of this dramatic situation that the mining unit of La Poderosa in Patas has once again experienced, the locality known as La Libertad, isn't it? It is crucial to observe how the state should respond and improve the organization of the forces in a region that has been declared in a state of emergency. Jorge, we have not observed any outcomes and findings. Discussing this topic with Victor Gobitz will be of great interest, as will the matter concerning oil. It's worth noting that Alejandro Narvaez, president of Petroperu, joined us for the conversation. Last week and still throughout this week, several observations and uncertainties have kept coming up about how the state-owned company is being managed. We will have Erick Garcia, a native of Portugal and former General Director of Hydrocarbons at the Ministry of Energy and Mines in Peru, joining us for a discussion on the country's hydrocarbon sector.
Yes, we deeply apologize for the situation in Patas, and it's important to note that the emergency measures in Peru are merely a procedural requirement. This is the complete truth. Unfortunately, there continues to be insecurity. And yes, I think that the term state of emergency is being misused, as in reality very little action is being taken. We are still grieving the losses, and we keep seeing the deaths occur, and this is something that worries us greatly. Shifting gears, we will also have, as you are all aware, there is an event known as Expomin Chile that takes place in Santiago de Chile, where Promperu and the Chile-Peru Chamber of Commerce, Juan Carlos Fisher and Elmer Lava. They will discuss this significant event with us, which is crucial as it serves as a meeting, a gathering of various mining suppliers from Peru who are going to that fair. So we are going to have a rather packed and very interesting program. Well, it's really fascinating because you can actually view it from various perspectives. Now, shifting our focus to the latest updates about mining, we owe our thanks to Gabriela Chicoma.
Thank you, Jorge, for the mining news of the week. These updates are the main highlights. Alpayana SAC has officially entered into a binding agreement to fully acquire the entire Ariana project developed by Southern Peaks Mining. The Ariana project will be developed under the highest international social and environmental standards. This initiative is crucial for strengthening Alpayana's expansion in the Central Andes area and for fostering synergies with its local mining activities, which are essential for its success. President Dina Boluarte announced new measures from the executive against illegal mining, following the recent terrorist attacks which resulted in the deaths of 3 workers at the prominent mining site in the Patas province of La Libertad. At the government palace, a meeting named War Room took place, which encompassed 62 individuals, where ministers and high-ranking officials of the National Police of Peru and the armed forces participated. Boluarte emphasized that there is no room for illegal mining in her government, noting that this activity harms both the country's natural areas and the national economy. President Dina Boluarte announced new measures from the executive against illegal mining, following the recent attacks that left 3 workers dead at the Ponderosa mine located in the province of Patas, La Libertad. During a crucial governmental gathering named the War Room within the government palace, where ministers and high-ranking officials of the National Police of Peru and the armed forces participated, Boluarte emphasized that there is no room for illegal mining in his government, noting that this activity harms both the country's natural areas and the national economy.
We greatly appreciate Gabriela Chicoma for providing the week's most important mining updates and news. Now, as previously stated, we are here with Victor Gobitz, the former president of the National Society of Mining, Oil and Energy. He is widely recognized in this field and holds significant influence. Of Rumbo Minero. Victor, how are you?
Thank you very much for the invitation, Jorge and Cesar.
Victor, we are noticing some movements. Quite aggressive with, for example, the price of copper. No? We are seeing, you will tell us since you know the topic well. Well, before there were illegal miners, artisanal ones, right? however we want to call them, although there is a difference. That it was about gold. Besides mining, copper has also emerged as a subject of interest. It is now being sought after for extraction purposes as well. I was curious about your perspective on the fluctuations in mineral prices. And also for you to tell us a bit about illegal mining. You have conducted a very powerful campaign for approximately 3 years concerning traceability, a term you brought up for discussion. However, what we observe is that, regrettably, the situation has been intensifying and in a very brutal manner. And the elections are coming, where we already know who the illegal miners are going to subsidize.
Yes, I appreciate both questions. First, regarding the topic of metal prices, there is a very particular confluence in the world. On one hand, there is great uncertainty, and there is still an excess of liquidity generated by the pandemic, which explains the significant boost in the price of gold. Gold is a refuge. It's a refuge when there is uncertainty or when there are signs of impending inflation. This is driving up the price of gold. Regarding copper, it typically goes in contrary directions, and there is also an increase happening simultaneously. There are two effects. One is a long-term effect, which is an obvious increase in demand of copper metal intended to substitute all the, how should I put it, the entire world that relies on fossil fuels to this process of, let's say, decarbonization that is underway. However, at the same time, there is an added short-term effect, which is the risk of tariffs. The new administration of the United States is announcing tariffs. And this is creating a sort of situation where copper oversupply, especially to arriving in the United States, because they prefer to buy now at a lower price than what could potentially be a price with tariffs. Thus, these two factors are responsible for driving the prices of both copper and gold. It's important since they are the two key metals that Peru produces. Copper and gold together account for more than 80% of the mining GDP.
Before you answer the second question, let's conclude this matter in order to progress forward. This is contrasting Chile. We possess copper resources unlike them. It has been exported primarily or significantly to China.
Correct.
So if Trump imposes or applies tariffs on everyone, which is something that could happen, as one of the four key nations, the United States significantly affects Peru's copper exports. Hence, it would be prudent for us to explore alternative clients in order to mitigate potential risks.
Certainly, what I mean is, as you correctly pointed out, Peru exports nearly 80% of its production to China. Barely 5% to the United States. But the risk is that all markets could become distorted, right? Everyone will want to stop selling to the United States, and that could create a distortion that...
It could lower the price, you say, because of that.
Prices may go down, or Peru could face unfavorable terms of trade, leading to a less favorable situation for the country. However, it is something that we do not think makes any sense at all. Peru has a positive balance with the United States in favor of the United
and
States.
TLC too.
That's right. We import more goods and services from the United States than we export to the United States. Now, to the second question, yes, these prices for gold and copper have pushed things forward. A long-standing mining tradition, a big ecosystem that is, it is all about production. We have ramped up our production. Unfortunately, it has regrettably been accompanied by a rise in informality and an increase in crime. It's true, traceability is the only way to clearly know who is who and how production occurs. Regrettably, the term reinfo as a concept lacks strict control measures and is quite loose. It does not allow full traceability, and as of today, the plants that have proliferated are plants without mines. They assert that they are operating legally by employing the reinfo concept. Nevertheless, it is clear that reinfo is facilitating miners, illegal miners and miners with criminal activities to enter formal operations to pilfer mineral. What has happened in Patas, and it must be made very clear, 5 people have died. As
additional included ones?
To those who had passed away, they enter and extract mineral. And that mineral, and this is a statement that has a lot of support, that mineral cannot be sold on the market. That mineral has to go through a plant. Those plants are indeed the ones that, as I mentioned earlier, have thrived along the coastline. And all claim, and I buy mineral based on RayInfo. But it is clear that RayInfo is an incomplete document. Regarding traceability, and I comprehend that SUNAT, and this is where the concept of traceability comes in, has begun to operate in a. It's systematic regarding that matter, since it's also true that there aren't thousands of plants. I predict there will likely be around 100 plants at the very least. Therefore, it is necessary that all plants adhere to this requirement. There must be supervision, there must be a process established, including an advanced tax capture method via withholding, and that it must be enforced to have full traceability to know where that truck is coming from, right?
But alongside, Victor, with the whole issue of crime, the insecurity we see around the mining units, it also occurs. The pressure from the electoral environment. Ivan Arenas is a consultant and researcher of social conflicts, often referred to as conflicts. He is known for his serious approach to the subject matter, because numerous individuals are incited by hidden motivations, has submitted a quite, well, to put it simply, educational overview of the situation in Puno, and this has also been echoed in the Tambo Valley, with similar occurrences in Piura is being replicated in Oyon. In the clearly pre-electoral context with the participation of numerous non-governmental organizations, it is rather unfortunate to admit that all this unfolded, but with support from the Catholic Church. So something needs to be done about it, because we have been alerting since last year, together with Jorge, that this pre-electoral climate cannot identify the state or the economic agents involved in mining unprepared. What do you think should be done about it?
Yes, maybe just a quick clarification. I think I belong to the Catholic University, which means I am part of the Catholic Church, and I think that
I am also part of the Catholic Church. Well, a sector of the Catholic Church, let's say, is supporting this.
Maybe it's best to say it like this. But what I mean to say is that, yes, it is true, unfortunately, in our country, the forces against development are coming together. Indeed, there are numerous individuals who possess a short-sighted perspective. This nation holds immense potential for growth. But if we continue to focus on the short term, it is possible that there will be many political forces that prioritize funding their political campaigns, first with anti-development concepts. To oppose mining has evolved into a political stance, and furthermore, it is crucial that they provide funding for those ideas. With money that comes, let's say, from activities. Originally, we must first contemplate the unethical nature, and it is highly likely that the state will be responsible for confirming the legality of these matters. But it's true, a very negative issue is converging, and what we must achieve in these spaces, to ensure a sustainable perspective for the long term, we ought to contemplate the necessary actions we need to take. The mining activity is part of that perspective, yes, formal mining. Copper mining, lead mining, zinc mining, tin mining, iron mining, which has large-scale projects and a significant economic impact on the country. Break time, 0.66. If we remain focused on the short-term situational view, we prioritize these activities that are not sustainable. This, and I repeat the concept, I do not, the mining concept is an integrated concept. Break time, if I have a plant and I supply myself and my business is to buy mineral, originates from any location, and the minerals possess various qualities, differing metallic compositions, and display diverse metallurgical characteristics. It's a business based on a situation which, as we see, involves high prices, but they are not sustainable over time.
Could we be talking about mining assets? The entity, what? With determination, since she is currently unprepared, with determination she can focus on the subject of legalizing illegal miners?
The subject at hand, which is the legalization of gold purchases, raises the question of why there is this level of interest. I believe the main interest is because the formal banking sector, with its compliance systems, has started to raise an eyebrow and is not willing to buy that gold. The origin of this text is unclear, lacking traceability, but not completely untraceable. Therefore, we are unintentionally aiding and abetting unlawful acts if we create a state entity that ultimately makes the purchase.
No, not for the purchase. I mean for the legalization of illegal miners.
Hey, we need a technical entity for this. I think the Ministry of Energy and Mines should handle it together with OSINERGMIN and OEFA, don't you think?
Great. Thank you, Victor Gobitz, for joining us on Rumbo Minero. We are eagerly looking forward to this exciting new development phase. Congratulations on your management in the society. Now you're the past president. And in this other place, with a different individual project, I sincerely extend my best wishes to you, and we eagerly anticipate reconnecting at Rumbo Minero so that we may carry on our ongoing
Thanks, Jorge and
conversation.
Cesar.
All right, let's go to a commercial break and we'll be back.
We enter our international block, America Mining, as always, with the international editor of our magazine, Rumbo Minero. Thank God José Gonzáles is still here in Lima, allowing us to have direct conversations with him. Hello, José. As always, we are delighted to have you with us.
I am
How
happy
have
to
you
be here
been?
and excited to
Welcome.
participate.
Well, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, designated the 2nd of last week to be Wednesday. It was indeed last Wednesday, the 2nd, whom we mentioned on one occasion that we will probably continue discussing for the next 4 years as the so-called Liberation Day due to the establishment of the so-called tariffs and the tariff implications that this entailed. Others aptly call it T-Day because it addresses the issue. So concerning the rates, please explain a little about the impact this has on the international economic, financial, and trade dynamics.
The conversation endures, Cesar, as long as the nation of the United States persists. He would propose that the country's economic future was more based on consumption and the strength of the dollar. When Nixon abandoned the gold standard as a foundation for the dollar and a service-oriented economy, and consumption today, according to President Trump's policies, wants to revert to producing again and re-employing to the North Americans in a production that likely won't generate anything. So, this is the rates proposal. It is going to keep generating significant volatility and considerable instability across the markets because the president is absolutely convinced that these tariffs can generate revenues of $700 billion in the United States, with the additional goal of further lowering corporate and high-income tax rates to maintain ongoing reduction efforts. And yet, there is already a consensus in the market. Again, as we have said in the past, from the most conservative to the most liberal economists, that what these tariffs are going to generate, as Goldman Sachs just mentioned, break time 0.4 say, it is most likely a case of stagflation, which involves an economic slowdown coupled with a return of inflation. Moreover, in a structure where international trade is based on competitive advantages and the aggregation of elements. Just to give you an idea, in a contemporary car, where we no longer talk about mechanics, but about mechatronics, because it is an electronic mechanical mix with 150 software suppliers to make the different parts work. How will that be put into action? After the announcements, it still poses a major question. It is quite evident that the Biden administration demonstrates a keen interest within this proposal. Otherwise, the United States is actively pursuing measures of reform. To secure control of essential minerals, oil and gas, which are vital energy sources for the future ahead. As mentioned previously, Peru will be impacted in some capacity according to Bloomberg's report. This adjustment will have repercussions for the country. In a few weeks, the specific tariffs on copper will be announced, which have already been announced for aluminum and steel, and will impact us, although not directly due to the 3% we export to the United States through other means. And that doesn't leave either less than 3 months into this administration, which has 3 years and 9 months left. Do not pursue initiatives akin to those of Ukraine concerning the critical minerals of Peru. This conversation also brings a reflection to the forefront. The Chinese government has just halted the sale of the ports in the nation of Panama. There is a discussion between China and the United States about ports versus tariffs. This is happening in Venezuela regarding sanctions and oil. It is likely that testing will impact us eventually. Luckily, Peru is not included in those tariffs, and we are experiencing a trade deficit with the United States. In other words, we import more than we export. We are not on the list of the 15. The ones that irritate President Trump the most are those where the trade deficit is highest. Well, and yet we have to be on guard for what could potentially come our way.
It is a package that we will also have to break down in the upcoming programs to examine it more closely, because these things are not something to comment on immediately, but to be developed further. On the other hand, Jose, Bloomberg published an interesting and extensive report last week, it must be said, about the illegal exploitation of copper. And it referred to the case of the Apuchonta quarry in Apurimac that is operated by a community called Pamputa, which has a info readily accessible to everyone. I think I know, Even though this community possesses that particular record in the rainfall, previously it was stated that illegal mining in Peru was solely focused on gold, but it has now expanded to include copper as well. What specific information does the article provide? You have thoroughly examined it as well.
This report is the initial one where we reaffirm our previous statement that illegal mining in Peru primarily revolves around the extraction of gold, and this still holds true. However, it is indeed him who solitarily resides within the margins where opportunities for gold and small-scale gold mining are found. It is the first in-depth report, very well researched, on the subject of illegal copper mining. And as you pointed out, what the report indicates is that this Pamputa company has surface rights, but not subsurface rights, which belong to MMG because they are part of the Las Bambas concession. The granting of the Bamba in Apurimac, which is the size of the city of Philadelphia, it is a very large concession, and MMG is only developing 2 sections of the concession. And this Apuchunta is part of the 3rd section. So what information does the report provide us? That they are involved in this illegal copper exploitation. And it is a quarry, not a mine as we typically understand copper mines. It specifically functions as a stone quarry. It directly employs 5,000 people and indirectly employs another 5,000. It produces $300 million a year in copper. To provide perspective, the sneakers are worth a staggering $10 billion, which is only a fraction of their overall value. Comparatively speaking, the sneakers' value is marginal. However, it begins to open the doors to what will be an ongoing discussion, as we have talked about in the past regarding the existence or not of ancestral mining. Who qualifies as an ancestral miner? But it also highlights, as the report points out, that these communities are accustomed in the past to crushing minerals when their harvests or herds of livestock or of flames they have do not function economically. And this is an economic alternative to communities that have gone from surviving to better living conditions. How do we handle that? Moreover, this mineral that is crushed, there are fleets of trucks. Once it reaches Nazca, it enters the commercial circuit and is sold by traders dealing in important metals. Speaking of tradability, I believe this is a discussion that is just beginning, which now involves copper, and it will take us a long time to understand, address, and resolve. In response to the report, MMG has released a statement indicating that the concession will not be exploited for another 10 years, and they are actively addressing the matter to serve it in the best possible pragmatic conditions available. The report also mentions that the same problem already exists in Bolivia, in Ecuador, and in the People's Republic of the Congo, where the army was mobilized to expel informal miners as well as those who were legally operating. But when the army withdrew because it cannot stay at the mine permanently, the miners returned, and mentions that the report says it is that way. Complex that this community has a football team, Union Minas, which plays in one of the national leagues. That is to say, we need to start understanding the opportunity, the complexity, and seek pragmatic, sensible solutions reasonable to a problem that is not going to disappear.
And you're asking about its dimensions, aren't you? Definitely. Thank you very much, Jose, for your participation, as always, in our international segment, America Mining. It was José Gonzáles, international editor of the magazine Rumbo Minero. You have free internet access to what is available for free via the internet. A. Using the online platform www.rumbominero.p. E. Everything discussed here with José Gonzáles, other reflections, some other interesting, important news from the mining sector, they are available in the top magazine of our industry. A pause and we return.
At this moment, we are joined by Erick Garcia Portugal, who previously served as the Director of Hydrocarbons and the Ministry of Energy and Mines. Let us discuss hydrocarbons. This text contains around 68 characters. Hello, Erick. We warmly welcome you here.
Welcome. Thank you for the welcome, Jorge Cesar. I am attentive to your inquiries.
All right, Erick. This subject is starting to take on some rather complicated aspects. There are many comings and goings in between among the players in this sector. A few days ago, the Minister of Energy and Mines, Jorge Montero, he requested Peru Petro's president, Mr. Mantilla, for his resignation from the position. Right? However, in the absence of any significant explanation, Montero would be reacting in this manner to the pressures exerted by Petroperu. In the wake of Mantilla's resignation, the MINEM has named Pedro Chira as the new head of Petroperu. Sorry about that. It's about Peru Petro. Is Chira Petro Peru's president until February 24th, correct? This text has about 116 characters. And he is quite near to the current president, Alejandro Narváez, to his general manager, Oscar Vera, who was the Minister of Energy and Mines. So what do you think the outlook for the hydrocarbon sector will be with this appointment and this alignment of institutions? I mean, is there a group of people who know each other is gathering again to discuss Petroperu and all the issues that I will delve into and that we already know, all this problematic situation? This may be seen differently, but in truth, the solution is not. What do you think about it? Let me know your thoughts.
Well, the first thing is that I think we are giving too much weight to a figure. That does not actually make decisions in a company like Peru Petro. The president of Peru Petro is not an executive president, but rather a president who is a member of a board. We should emphasize that he holds a non-executive role. And decisions are made by a board of directors. And decisions are based on technical reports from the technical management teams. And the technical managements, from what I know, and I know several professionals, are career-oriented. It would be quite complicated, for example, if they start taking things that are against the law, the regulations, the contracts, or the guidelines. I don't believe, regardless of how close it might be to the Chira, the engineer with Peru and Petroperu, can reverse an entire, let's say, an entity as skilled as Peru Petro. If we don't want to go through this, then we must make a constructive criticism. All of us who have been career civil servants, we are aware of their power to influence. However, it's also crucial to consider roles of responsibility. It's a choice made by management, don't you think? I've been in a trusted role. A minister came and told me, up to this point, no matter how excellent my results were, they changed ministers, and that was anecdotal 2 days later. The new minister restored my authority and placed me back in control. So, that is something that public officials are exposed to when they are in positions of trust. Should we wish to prevent those fluctuations, it would certainly be advantageous for Peru Petro to establish a selection mechanism, such as, like the regulators, right? The regulators, you choose a president, you have a term, and you shield the entity.
However, the main focus of the discussion revolves around the allocation of lots 1 and 6. As is common knowledge, 2 consortiums were established by Ponderosa Energy for management purposes. I had received the recognition. Of course, I still had to go through another procedure for them to validate the entire proposal they made. The comptroller observed it. In that, for instance, the engineer Alejandro Narváez relies on saying that, well, they haven't found it necessary of pushing since the comptroller has also validated those observations. Still, José Mantilla, the previous president of Peru Petro, has maintained that he was under pressure. What are your thoughts on the whole scenario that has been presented?
Well, what I think is that there are two issues here. I have held the position of president of the selection committee, if you will, and everything that pertains to the awarding committee is separate from the presidency or the manager, meaning the selection committees are autonomous, and that must be said. As for the consortia in any type of competition, regardless of its nature, the winner needs to be checked, and if they don't meet all the requirements, the second place will take over, and if the second doesn't qualify, then the third will. This is quite usual. I believe it is not good for the sector, nor is it good for the entity. That we tried to magnify something that I suspected would not qualify, not because the company is good or bad, but through the proposal that was made. I mean, the proposal of the winner. Relative to the contest foundations, it was noted that it is 600% larger, which entails greater financial resources and more guarantees. And perhaps they couldn't secure it and they couldn't hand it over to Peru Petro, and undoubtedly they will simply delegate the second jurisdiction. And if the second doesn't
place,
qualify,
it is also not Petroperu. I believe Petroperu ranked 3rd in one of the lots and 4th in the other one.
Petroperu is located in a single area on a solitary plot of land. What I think is that, in my opinion, it's not good to speculate. I mean, all of us who have been in the sector, and well, we are technicians, have been career officials, the issue of pressure doesn't quite fit. Why? Because in the end, the one who signs is the career official, the technician, and the comptroller, as you already mentioned, is there. If you do something that doesn't fit the rules, that doesn't comply with the guidelines, the one who pays the price won't be the president. The one who pays the price will be the official who didn't do the right thing. and I believe that won't happen. I do believe they will award the 2 lots, that they won't cut off.
But still, in any event, you say it's not good to speculate, but the whole of Peru, the ordinary citizens, the press, she is feeling a little worn out because she is addressing the subject of the continuous borrowing of funds. Well, seeing loans of hundreds of millions of dollars pass through a poor country, people just don't have the patience for that topic. And that it spreads, right? Any topic, as you say, technical, and it spreads. Therefore, when these alliances unexpectedly emerge and it is declared that Petroperu will definitely progress, no matter what happens, well, what is your way of addressing individuals? Additionally, what type of financial aid will they receive? This is because past Petroperu presidents assured us that they would address the situation. Most start by saying no more subsidies, especially the ministers of economy, no more subsidies, and soon they're already subsidizing. So, unfortunately, it's a loan, not a grant. This and of course, right? On the other hand, it's a bit of a dead end, right? We have assets worth 3 billion or 4 billion, but we owe 8 billion. So then, at what point does the wheel stop, or at what point is a well thought out decision made and not, do presidents come in? Well, all the time, right?
Let's see, I agree with you. I believe that all Peruvians need to have clarity and predictability with the company Petroperu. And I think there's something that's not being done, which was already set in a regulation, which is the restructuring. Oh, we missed the restructuring. At first, under the previous board, there were conversations about restructuring. The board was modified. Some numbers that have shown improvement were revealed, but the restructuring is still not being tackled.
Moreover, I must apologize, so you can carry on. Mr. Narvaez was here just last week, and she tells us that regarding 2,500 persons, a retirement advance for 65 has been processed. He believes he could work at Petroperu with a budget of 1,500 or 1,200, that's his estimation. So he's agreeing with the people because the first thing they say is, hey, what am I doing? What exactly is the state still offering, given that there is a significant number of people that every government has neglected, don't you think? That goes along with the restructuring line that you are mentioning, right?
The thing is, to carry out a restructuring, one needs political decision-making. And the easiest and most technically sound approach in any international oil company is to divide the company by business lines. When you divide the company by business lines, it's simple to tell who is doing well and who isn't. It's really easy. But what is happening with Petroperu? Petroperu is very large. It has a pipeline on one side, refining on another side, and trading on yet another side. Administration on another, and perhaps the pipeline generates losses, but trading generates profits. So everything balances out and no one knows which area is generating losses, which area is overstaffed. In the world of hydrocarbons, it's very easy to set ratios. For example, the number of workers per barrel processed, the number of workers per barrel stored. If we move to that, we would greatly assist the state in making important decisions. But I do agree with you, and I hope that what Minister Salari said, that it will not be given anymore. More whitewashing than it gives. To make that happen, we need to restructure that company. And I believe a good path was FONAFE. No, FONAFE is a conglomerate that has many rules. The directors have continuity, comply, there are indicators, and it has good corporate governance.
It's an option.
I think it's a good choice.
Okay, Erick Garcia Portugal, former General Director of Hydrocarbons at the Ministry of Energy and Mines, thank you very much for being on Rumbo Minero. We hope to have you at another time to continue discussing these topics. We're going to a commercial break and we'll be right back. As we mentioned earlier, we currently have Juan Carlos Fisher and Elmer Lava, both being present in our studios, with Juan Carlos Fisher serving as the president of the Peruvian-Chilean Chamber, the leader overseeing the various manufacturers department within Promperu. They will discuss with us a significant regional event known as Expomin, which takes place in Chile. Hey, how's it going, Juan Carlos and Elmer? Welcome to Rumbo Minero.
We are delighted with our dear
Share
friend
with
Elmer.
us, in light of this context and this situation, in Chile, how do you see it? What are the expectations, let's say, for this version of Expomin?
Look, Jorge, there are two, not challenges, but two circumstances that are predominant today in Chile regarding this issue. One, the election year. you know that the elections are in November. This undoubtedly adds a substantial charisma to any international event that can be organized, making it more attractive. And the other, the tremendous rise that copper has had in the world, and you all know that better than I do, and what it signifies for Chile being the leading copper producer globally. But the main challenges, I believe, the challenges Chile is currently facing as a mining country are environmental issues and permits, along with all these elements that have been added to the normal development of the activity.
Have you had an infection then?
Regrettably, yes. I'm not sure who infected whom in this case. However, the issue is that these days, if you pick up a stone anywhere in the territory, you will encounter some individuals insisting that those lands are ancestral
What didn't happen
territories.
before, right?
What never happened
In Chile?
before, which could have finally happened here, and well, throughout our region. In today's world, I think there is a significant and politicized misuse of that situation that leads to a tremendous regression. I think that this is an issue that can and ought to be tackled in the upcoming edition of the fair, and I believe it deserves attention.
Elmer, tell us a bit about how the presence of the Peruvian Pavilion is being organized at Expomin. In the year 2025, as with the Chilean Pavilion, whenever the Digama Group organizes Expomina in our country, it tends to be very well organized. How does that happen?
Indeed, Cesar, this marks the 7th time that Peru will participate in Expomin. The biennial fair that stands out in Chile is here. In this instance, we will be involved in the Peruvian Pavilion featuring 17 suppliers. Additionally, there are 9 others who will be there, some with individual stands, others as part of a visit with the chamber. And among those 17 companies that provide parts, pieces, equipment, technological solutions for training, for example, along with other engineering services, our suppliers are precisely looking to continue positioning themselves in the Chilean mining industry. From a strategic perspective, our attention is on medium-scale and large-scale mining. However, this is dependent on the availability and reliability of our suppliers. In general, most of these companies are small and medium-sized, with 71% of the 18 businesses being classified as such. The other 29% are large suppliers. Precisely in that sense, we want to make the match with mines. We are precisely scheduling meetings with 10 Chilean mines for the fair, allowing other suppliers to visit as well. We aim to maintain the approximate character count of 244 while maximizing the preservation of meaning. Peruvian suppliers are constantly attracted to other clients, mines, and mining contractors as they always pique their interest.
Now, Juan Carlos, well, we are aware that the chamber, which you lead, carries out a rather fascinating job in terms of assisting Peruvian suppliers in order to gain entrance into Chile. How is this issue progressing? How is that growth going? We know this because of our fair Expomin. We know and have discussed that there are more Chilean suppliers who manage to enter the Peruvian market. How is the effort progressing? 44 characters.
Look, Jorge, I believe that with each passing day and year, and here is Elmer to corroborate it, and our presence together once again in an instance like this, like the Expomin, break time, confirms the interest now arising must still retain its meaning. From the very start, our concept has been, and now it is completely formalized, to proceed in unison so that there isn't a commercial office on one side with Peru, Promperu, and the embassy on the other, and the Chamber of Commerce on one side, but we should work together. What is it that we are currently engaged in with Promperu in such a way that, in response to what Elmer just said, we are bringing a significant group of entrepreneurs and supplier companies, giving them the peace of mind that they will be under the umbrella of the Peruvian Pavilion, which makes it tremendously attractive. We are putting together a cocktail event. What will be the highlight cocktail of the Peruvian evening. We are organizing an event with a breakfast at a hotel there for the entire mission. The thing I want to convey is that we are presently going together and we are in the process of making it official, finalizing the formalization of an agreement that allows us both to work with the field clearly defined. Our non-profit organization, like any other, can only function by signing a contract. By now, you must be aware that both our institutions rely on this crucial agreement for their operations to occur. And I think we are currently in the last phase with the legal department of from Promperu to complete the formalization process. This will guarantee us, I would say, a priori success in managing Peru as a whole, which is what we need to strive for.
So in that regard, Juan Carlos, I have one last question for the two of you. What other initiatives do you have scheduled for the year 2025 concerning the mining field? This question is intended for both of you.
All right, we don't have much time, do we, to discuss everything we have scheduled for the year 2025. However, listen, we are still persisting, particularly those of us in the Promperu chamber. It's evident that the projects are tremendous and plentiful. We are specifically here at this moment. The agenda is all set, and I will send it to you right away, which includes breakfasts. Additionally, you have participated in various breakfasts, cocktails, and after-work gatherings. There are specific workshops that are conducted and have tremendous success, especially for the suppliers, as MEF indicated. The small and medium-sized ones, which is where at least we are focused today, because they are the ones who need us the most.
Elmer.
At Promperu, we have created a comprehensive range of technical support and training programs aimed at suppliers. We additionally possess business intelligence responsibilities, which include finding buyers and identifying opportunities. Additionally, in terms of commercial promotion, we will be engaging in 10 activities this year, specifically on 5 trade fair platforms in the markets of Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, and Ecuador. Additionally, we have 2 missions to eat, 3 commercial missions in Bolivia, in Chile as well, and in the United States. Taking advantage of our participation in the Mine Expo, we are going to visit Arizona and Nevada, specifically looking for opportunities for Peruvian suppliers. There is open pit mining and there is underground mining. In Chile, we are participating in a trade mission in Antofagasta, with the main purpose of visiting the mines and building connections with the ultimate consumers. The same approach will be followed in Bolivia. In June, we will conduct 2 activities, one being the reverse mission, which will involve bringing in roughly 40 buyers so they can meet with suppliers and visit their plants. And the mission, the business roundtable that we will hold within the framework of Perumin in Arequipa. Therefore, we plan to establish a similar partnership as we did with the Peruvian-Chilean camera, this time with the Institute of Mining Engineering. This will ensure that Perumin has the opportunity to participate in this business round. In addition, we will be inviting purchasers to Arequipa, much like the way we organize for the Digama Group. Would that be possible during Expomina in terms of gathering buyers? That would work perfectly.
Agreed. Very well. Thank you both very much for being here. They are Elmer Lava, Juan Carlos Fisher, President of the Peruvian-Chilean Chamber, and Elmer Lava, Head of the Manufacturing Department. Various from Promperu, who are doing for their own, each one on their side. This pushing very good actions, but additionally, the 2 parties are coming together to collaborate and improve the initiative concerning us, the Peruvian mining suppliers, with the ability to expand into Chile. Thank you for your presence
So
here.
enchanted.
Thanks, Jorge and Cesar.
All right, let's proceed now to the community of suppliers, the partners with shared goals, the providers for mining operations. Very well, we have reached the end of the program in this special edition, as it has been entirely dedicated this time to Rumbo Minero due to the large amount of information and interviews we've had, Cesar. And making certain, we come to certain deductions on the crucial subjects concerning mining and also hydrocarbons, correct?
Undoubtedly, Victor Gobitz has returned to Rumbo Minero after an absence. Previously, he held the position of president in the National Society of Mining, Oil and Energy. I think he has given us a quite global perspective on how the market is doing. Given the growing cost of copper, now its price continues to rise. However, it is essential to address the various internal challenges we face to fully harness the potential of this valuable resource. Our ability to do so at this crucial moment cannot be understated. Demand for this mineral, copper.
Copper and gold keep going up. On the other hand, this Trump and the tariffs towards the world. It is really, in terms of price volatility and the comprehensive nature of this issue, financial and stock market matters are complicated because, well, when you have the president of the most powerful country in the world constantly giving, various policies exist for all, leading to significant movement in the sea, right? Now, what's happening with Expomin Chile is intriguing. I think it's a fair that, like our Expomina Peru, has become well established in Chile. And on our part, Expomina Peru is set to arrive in the year 2026. This, and naturally the subject matter of this problem that is occurring between Petro and Petroperu with exits and entries. We have already interviewed President Petroperu. We are interviewing a former, an executive employee working at the ministry. We will be conducting additional interviews. However, we're seeing that the most important thing is that what is being said is fulfilled, because they change presidents all the time. but commitments must be met. Why is there an excess of 2,800 employees at Petroperu when only 1,500 are necessary? I urgently require clarification regarding this significant difference. I mean, if we want the government to offer loans, we must take action towards it. No to Petroperu. So one must ensure they are financially responsible regarding the payroll amount they manage, correct?
The main subject is exactly that, correct? Just as we conversed with Narvaez during the previous week. Concerning the heritage, the net assets that Petroperu possesses are not the reason they will go bankrupt. It's not a solvency issue because they are clearly generating resources. The important thing is what you say, the financial leverage to be able to pay the enormous amount of debt it has. The payment from Petroperu's bondholders is coming, and we want to see if compliance will occur.
Okay. Indeed, we have now arrived, as you all can see, with a vast array of subjects, as is customary, that are significant for the mining sector in Peru. We have come to the conclusion. We express our gratitude for your continuous support. We eagerly anticipate your presence next weekend. I am Jorge León Benavides. In collaboration with Cesar Campos, we have successfully created a masterpiece. This episode of Rumbo Minero. Thank you very much.